one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah.
When we look at theatre, when we look at music, when we look at just the broad space of song and dance, yeah?
He was the mind, I said earlier, he was the mind behind Sarafina.
Yes.
And today we are remembering the late, great Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. And we're doing this through the lens of a documentary. And our special guest will tell us a bit more.
He will tell us. So we're looking at the story of Mbongeni Ngema, but very personal documentary that we're going to be looking at as it opens the curtains on the life of one of South Africa's most celebrated creative minds. Told in his own words, this is a film that is going to take viewers through a beautiful story of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema's artistry, how he sort of came through with Woza Albert. We were talking about the theatre play Woza Albert, which was really big, Asna Mali, to him just becoming a global storyteller. Really, I get goosebumps just thinking about how big his story is. And I think the archival space, when we look at his footage, his interviews, his voice that moved through many places and spaces, his work with Quincy Jones, his work with Leledi Khumalo, just reflecting on South Africa. And I think that the space of apartheid South Africa, which has been well documented. So with that said, we are not the storytellers, but Lindani Mbese is the storyteller for this particular documentary. We know him as a South African journalist, but he has since, of course, come through with filmmaking, with his experience in journalism, and really telling this wonderful story that is very, very important for the African continent. LM, welcome to the show. So wonderful to meet you in person.
Good afternoon, and pleasure to be here.
Exciting to have you here because we're about to talk about a very important conversation, a man whose reputation, legacy is larger than life for the most part. A quick introduction of you, LM, before we get into that documentary. Mmatsheko is like, journalist, some people may not know. Who is LM?
LM is, grew up within the corridors of the SABC. I'll start it there. I first entered the doors of SABC in 2001 as an intern, and I never left until 2016. Having worked in Morning Live, having worked with SABC News, sports journalist there. In fact, I picked up an award there at some points. It was still called the SAB Awards. So I got, Journalist of the Year at that time. But mainly I ended up as a sports broadcaster with SABC. That was my old life, very exciting life. And since then, I ventured into production behind the scenes, and this is where we are today.
It's 20 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time. We're going to take a quick breather. When we get back, we will find out what was the inspiration behind this documentary and what can people expect. Don't go anywhere. This is The Upside on Channel Africa.
Call us on +27 63 406 9126. I can see my whole world changing. And contribute to the conversation. Africa at Play with NATO and ETO Chairman.
The Confederation of African Athletics, CAA President Mr. Hamad Kalkaba Malboum, talk to us about the state of athletics in Africa as it stands, and what picture are you looking at 5 years later?
Yeah, athletics in Africa is strong. We are able to organize our major events in time. Like this year, we will have the under-20 and under-18 African Championship in Nigeria. Next year, we will have the senior in Ghana. In 2027, we will go back to Algeria to organize the under-18 and under-20. And then 2028, we will have the senior championship in Gaborone in Botswana. Well, by this program, we can increase our performance. And at the same time, we are considering the fact that within the British Federation, they are identifying young talent every year within the national program, within the scholarship championship. And so the athletics in Africa is in good standard.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
Hello, Africa. We would love to hear your voice on our radio station. Be part of the fun and send a shout out or greeting message to your loved ones and your favorite Channel Africa presenters. Whether you're in Africa, the diaspora, or anywhere else around the globe, we want to hear your voice. Send your shout out message by sending an email to info@channelafrica.co.za or send them to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Help us diversify our sound with your voice. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Whatever you want to hear about today's talk, you can only get it on the Upside. Every weekday, 2 to 5 p.m. Central African Time.
22 minutes into 2 p.m. Central African Time. Welcome to the Upside with Tebogo and Mmatsheko in studio with a special guest as we talk about a very important part of our creative history, a very important time of our years of segregation, but also how the story has been told. We have a gentleman representing Mngungundlovu, but also just representing the world, really, with his storytelling. Lindani Mbese is a journalist from South Africa, but also exploring the space of filmmaking, putting together a wonderful documentary to tell the story of the late, great Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. Lindani, let's start at the beginning, okay? At the beginning for me is really trying to establish and understand your meeting with Dr. Ngema. You know, how did you meet him? Because I think then that would be able to give us a sense of why you decided to move with his story in this manner.
I think where it all began, I've seen so many great South Africans pass on. And when they have, we're left with nothing. Nothing documented about them except what you actually see on the newspaper or in a TV interview. And, so this is where it started for me. So I wanted to start a series of documentaries. So the subtitle being, This Is My Story, because I believe people should be telling their stories. They live amongst us. Let's catch them while they are alive, while they're with us, and get the story from the horse's mouth. So that's where it began. But I think Dr. Ngema made it very easy for me. I had told a friend that I wanted to do this series, and I had a whole list. Your Prince Mosito Butelezis were there, your Tebogo Tsulas were there, your Hugh Masigelas were on that list, and one of the names was Dr. Ngema. So the friend said, no, he knows him very well. In fact, we were actually busy with a project in Limpopo. He said, on our way back, we can pass his house and see him. It was a Monday. Yeah. Listen to this. It was a Monday evening. I told Dr. Ngema this idea that I had, and his answer that I want to do a documentary on him. Yes. And all he said was, "I'm free on Wednesday."
Oh,
Monday. I'm free on Wednesday.
I'm free on Wednesday. Yeah, that's where it all began.
So suffice to say, he was keen on having his story be documented and shared.
I think what surprised him more is. This young man wanting to tell the story about the possibly or arguably the greatest African storyteller, we have, in whichever way you want to look at it. So I think he was more in awe or more surprised and thought, okay, let me see what this is all about rather than anything. Because he didn't ask me, what documentary have you done or what's your history in this or what's your background? Show me something. Anyone will always say, if I say I want to take photos of you, you're going to say, show me something.
Show me your credentials. Yes.
He asked for that. All he said to me was, I'm free on Wednesday.
Talk about the stars aligning. I love that story. I love that story. And also, I think it's just, first of all, I mean, congratulations and well done. I couldn't have chosen a better person. When you really consider the work that he's done, his catalogue in theatre is it's vast, and it has been able to outlive him, and it's going to outlive us all. So really just a perfect story to tell. But talk to me about just putting the pieces of this puzzle together, because there are so many angles that you can take with Mbongeni, from his childhood to the Sarafina space, to him working with Hugh Masigelas. So what angle did you take with his story, and what story do you actually want to tell?
I heard when you were earlier when you were promoting the interview, you spoke about that I was a journalist, therefore I did my homework.
Yes.
But some things really need you. Sometimes the less you know of something, the more you get out of it. If I don't know who you are, what you do, I ask everything in detail.
Yeah.
Who are you? What's your surname?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Right.
Who are your parents?
Yes.
So I think when I started the documentary with Dr. Ngema, because from Monday to Wednesday, not too much could be done because I had to arrange everything else. So I didn't get a full chance to actually do full research. So a lot of the things, but I found that some of the things he speaks about, I probably wouldn't have asked had I known it's a norm. So it's a really deep conversation. I think it really. What I found when I was doing the documentary with him is it actually took him into places he had forgotten,
right?
Into spaces that he had forgotten, because suddenly you have to dig deep, because you're not being asked these questions. You're the guy that's just presenting everything to everyone. Suddenly you're being asked, how did you create Sarafina? And besides, how did you create Sarafina? What was the what was everything behind it? What was the motivation? And you find someone actually, it's as if he's paging backwards in a book. But you can see it in thoughts, and what you get out of there is out of, it comes with a lot of emotion, it comes with a lot of thinking, and he's really literally reliving it as he's telling you. And you know what a great storyteller, let me tell you that much.
Oh, brilliant.
Because you'll sit, we're sitting here having an interview, but with him you'll be sitting and you get caught up in what he's telling you. And you end up, when someone's telling you a story, Nampela, and it's like, okay, so guys, I think there's, like you're saying, who better to have, the documentary obviously has a lot of overlay footage, a lot of archive, but he can just capture, he captures, even there was a camera guy I was working with, you end up forgetting to press record or stop because what an amazing character. And for me, I remember that I went to watch, my mother took my family to watch Sarafina. I think it was in Durban, early 90s somewhere, the theater. And to be, I think I was about 5, 7 or somewhere, whatever age I was, but very young. Sometimes you sit with greats as a kid. It could be your son, could be your daughter, it could be, and you don't know that one day you are actually going to be the person to tell the story about, this great South African. So there's, it's so big. Like, I think your question was, how do you actually capture? And I think I just focused on certain key things. Yeah. We dance to Stimela Sasezola every day, all over Africa, all over the world, but no one knows the story behind it. Suddenly in the documentary, there's a story behind what Stimela Sasezola was. Sarafina, we watch it year in, year out. Suddenly there's a story about, how it all started, and, it all unfolds obviously in the documentary. I mean, you spoke of Asina Mali and Walter Albert. Those plays were in Broadway in America in the early 80s. He was getting invites to come and perform there. Those are, we know that he's an international artist and he's known all over the world, for his work. But I think it was in 1982, 83, he was already showing his work to the world. And how much do we as South Africans actually know about his work except for Sarafina and Stimela Sasezola? And it's deep.
And a lot of it will get revealed on this documentary. And I'd love to also touch on Dr. Mbongeni Ngema, the man himself, and what a character he was. And we'll touch on this right after we get the sports news and the business news as well. For now, Figile Lingwate is standing by. It's 31 minutes after 2 p.m. Central African time to give us the latest in sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
We kick off with football news this hour. The Congolese Football Federation, FECOFOOT, has named Lekhuleni Ngatsono as the head coach of the Congo's A national team in a major technical overhaul as the country prepares for the 2024 African Nations Championship, CHAN. Ngatsono's appointment marks a return to national duty for the seasoned tactician who previously led the senior Red Devils and now steps into a pivotal role as Congo eye their 5th appearance at the CHAN finals. He He'll be supported by assistant coach Cedric Nanitelamio, both of whom recently earned CAF A coaching licenses, aligning Congo's ambitions with continental standards. The decision by Fecofoot to completely revamp the coaching structure, retaining only physical trainer Eric Mokoyo from the previous setup, underscores a desire to reset and re-energize the team's prospects ahead of the tournament in East Africa this August. The 2024 CHAN will be hosted jointly by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania from the 2nd to the 30th of August under the Pamuja East Africa Initiative. South African National Olympic Body, SASCOC, President Barry Hendricks has confirmed that South Africa's bid to host the 2036 Olympic Games has been put on hold. The National Olympic Body will instead shift its focus to bidding for smaller international events, including the World Volleyball Championships, before preparing a bid for the 2040 Olympic Games. South Africa was among 11 countries, including Morocco and Egypt, that had expressed interest in hosting the 2036 Games. But Hendricks says they missed the deadline to submit the necessary bid documents to the IOC.
We've not been able to get through the ministry, we've not been able to get cabinet sanction. So we're going to put that on hold for now. We can look at 2040, but then also look at other events that we need to encourage international organizations to bring their events to South Africa. For example, we've spoken to, when we were in Lausanne, to World Volleyball. They want to bring their professional league here, as well as the international championships, but also their General Assembly.
Now, rugby news. The Springboks made the journey from Cape Town to Johannesburg to begin their preparations for the opening match of the Castle Lager incoming series against Italy at Loftus Versfeld in Pretoria on Saturday. The Boks sustained an injury to Jean Klein in the match against the Barbarians. It's a blow, but not as devastating as it could have been, because the coaching staff have been crafting a fluid succession plan to weather player injuries. Scrum guru Dan Human explains.
I'm not in the medical department yet. I'm a doctor, but a scrum doctor, not a medical doctor, so I'm getting there. But I'm not too sure what's happening exactly. But we're fortunate that we have numbers. We're fortunate we have guys that can play lock as well, like Kobus Visa coming in as well. And I mean, like you all know, Peter Steff can always cover probably all the positions on the field for us.
Finally, with golf news, Ian Poulter's bid to play his first Open for 3 years could be thwarted by his son, Luke, who is also trying to make it to the championship. Both will be battling the odds in the same qualifying tournament to try to grab one of just a handful of spots at the main event. Either could knock the other out of contention for an Open berth. They are among 72 players competing over 2 circuits of Royal Senki ports in Kent. This family venture to reach Royal Portrush for the 153rd staging of golf's oldest major is one of several enticing storylines from final qualifying. The older Poulter, a Ryder Cup legend, has played in 20 Opens, but none since 2022, when the 49-year-old opted to join the LIV Tour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Midday vibes, great programming, and good company. This is Channel Africa. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
This song has a line that I love so much in the isiXhosa language. It says, Andinayo nesentem daga. So I went down to the Eastern Cape. So I went to Yanga and said, Yanga, tell me here, what does Andinayo nesentem daga mean?
If I say Andinayo nesentem daga, it means that I do not have any money on me. I do not have money to give to you.
Interesting, because in Chivenda, I would just say, Atinana peni, ndo charungwe. I wonder if you have that expression in your home language when you want to say you're broke, but in a very creative way. What do you say? I'd like to hear from you.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. They talk about what Africans say about Africa.
We're going to continue our conversation with Lindani Mbese as we tribute the life of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. Right now, though, let's go to the economics desk. Bontle Hetbush has the latest.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. In our top business story at this hour, Guinea's exports of bauxite, a feedstock for aluminium, surged 39% to a record 48.6 million metric tons in the first quarter of this year. The regulatory crackdowns sidelined major operators. Most of this bauxite was shipped to China, where aluminium production has recovered. In the first 5 months of the year, China produced 18.59 million tons, a rise of 4% from the same period last year, according to Guinea's Ministry of Mines and Geology. Guinea, the world's second largest bauxite producer, shipped 312 vessels compared to 225 ships carrying 34.9 million tons in the first quarter of 2024. President of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, Kosatu Zingiswa Losi, says it's time for South Africa to create and own a narrative as a country and ensure that every rand spent stays local. This as today marks the official launch of 2 new online platforms aimed at boosting the country's manufacturing and connecting buyers directly to homegrown products and producers. This initiative, Shop Proudly South African, is already active and offering more than 1,700 locally made items to consumers. This will allow South African made goods to step into the digital spotlight with a little help from government. Losi says they support the initiative as organized labor.
It is great to see the fruition of what we fought for as organized labor. It is good for us to be part of this journey and see when government listens, we can be able to shift the narrative and also to make South Africa great. So we're here to give support to Proudly South Africa and also to say we're grateful to the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition. Let's work together to build a better South Africa.
Meanwhile, South Africa's manufacturing sector continues to show signs of strain. According to Absa Bank's Purchasing Managers Index PMI, the headline PMI contracted for the 7th consecutive month. The index, which measures the health of the sector, declined by 1.6 points to 43.1 index points in May 2025. The decline in the Suppliers Deliveries Index pushed the headline PMI lower. Notando Makudulela reports.
Absa says the manufacturing sector continued to suffer in May despite some flickers of activity and demand improvement, albeit at extremely low levels. However, the improvement in orders and activity provides some optimism for recovery. This is due to domestic demand recovering slightly as export sales continue to deteriorate at a rapid rate. At the same time, the index tracking expected business conditions in 6 months' time increased in May due to improved sentiment as global tariffs were suspended.
South Africa has asked for more time to negotiate a trade deal with the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration before his higher tariff regime goes into effect on July 9. Trump imposed a 31% tax on U.S. imports from South Africa in April as part of his global reciprocal tariffs before pausing their application for 90 days to allow for negotiations. South Africa's Trade Ministry says the country aims to secure a trade deal that will exempt some of its key exports from the tariffs, including autos, auto parts, steel and aluminium. It has offered to buy liquefied natural gas from the United States in exchange. It's also seeking a maximum tariff application of 10% as a worst-case scenario. The U.S. is South Africa's second largest bilateral trading partner after China. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Secretary General, Matthias Cormann, says that it's crucial to develop stronger and coordinated international partnerships to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. He spoke at the second day of the 4th International Conference of Financing in Spain, where issues such as sustainable growth and climate change were discussed. Cormann further says that the OECD supports the greater mobilization of private finance.
In partnership with the United Nations and Convergence, our new private investment mobilization action plan will help achieve the private finance objectives that are outlined in the Compromiso de Sevilla. More broadly, the OECD is working to address barriers to scaling up private investment, including a lack of data leading to higher perceived investment risk in developing countries. For example, through the data analysis portal we are launching this year through our Africa Virtual Investment Platform.
Now for a look at the indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 537. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 21. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 49. And in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 79. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 46. Russia, 78 rubles 16. In India, it's 85 rupees 62. China, 7 yuan 16. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 74 cents. $1 is trading at 72 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,348 per ounce this afternoon, and platinum at $1,352 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $66.76 a barrel. And those are your business news. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hetbush.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Have you been struggling to find Channel Africa?
Oh yes, where can I find you guys?
Well, you are in luck.
Warning, radioactive zone detected. Please enter.
Listen to the African perspective on our brand new SABC Plus app. Download the fresh and easy to use app from sabcplus.com or the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Or just command your phone to find SABC Plus on your phone and check out all this good stuff. And that's where you will find Channel Africa, the African perspective. Oh yes, this is fresh and easy. The Upside. On the Upside, your voice matters.
I am Mbongeni Ngema. I was born on the 1st of June 1955 in Verulam, near Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And as soon as I looked at those ladies, the lyrics just came. Stimulus Kentucky was only influenced by the Kentucky that Makala brought to the studio. Quincy Jones brought everyone to South Africa. Whether it's Michael Jackson's family, whether it's Denzel Washington, whether it's Stevie Wonder, everybody. It takes me back to my great-grandmother when I was sitting in that hut. Silently inside her, she was saying, "My boy, I want you to tell these stories about the African people, about your people."
15 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African Time. The voice there of Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. We're remembering him, a documentary created by Lindani Mbese. And just listening to that, you already know that you are in for a ride. We are still in conversation with Lindani. He's joining us in studio to tell us about this documentary. Ngema remembered, this is my story. Off air, we were having a conversation and you were saying that about 95% of this documentary, it's his voice, it's his perspective, it's his story.
It's his story. There can't be any deviation from it.
Yeah.
If he's chosen to deviate, it's his story still. So I think, the drive for me with the documentary is, people need to be telling their own stories. People need to be telling people what they want people to know. I once had a screening, and one of the people watching the screening said, "Okay, but now where's all the other stuff that we hear?" But I said, "I'm not a tabloid. I'm here to tell, honestly, my documentaries, which I'm hoping there'll be more and more. I'm here to tell a feel-good story about South Africa, about our artists. Other countries do it with their people, why not us? So, I'm here to tell the feel-good story.
I love that.
I love that. We have enough negativity, so let's go the positive route. I think that's just such a beautiful angle. I really like what you said before we took a break, and I want to reflect on that. How Dr. Ngema was put in a place to reflect on his own journey, and had it not been for this documentary, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to reflect on his work because he was busy with the next play. He was busy with the next travel, busy with the next song, So you have given him such a gift in terms of giving him an opportunity to reflect on the genius and the icon that he was in the space. Let's talk about, in the story, how you were able to tell his story of how, because a lot of what he does intersected between the arts and activism. So how did that meet in the documentary?
I think it became very easy because I think everything he saw, he saw a play of. Everything he heard, he saw entertainment of.
Yes.
I'll just give you a sneak into it. When he says how Sarafina started, for example, obviously, like you're saying, politically things were, all over the show. So he says, he starts by saying that he had gone to a funeral with Umam Winnie Mandela. And when he came back, while they were sitting in a kitchen and she was cooking, he asked her, Mom Winnie, where do you think this is all going to end? And she said, and he says that she said she wishes she could get a big blanket and cover all the young ones so that they don't see the bitter end. Which means, she at the time she had no hope that we would ever come out of that. And Dr. Ngema says as he's driving home, he started having visions of this young girl standing saying, "Freedom is coming tomorrow." And when he got home, he actually wrote, "Freedom is coming tomorrow," which was the beginning of Sarafina.
Get ready, Mama. The freedom is here.
Because he was just fighting these words that Umam Winnie had put. No, there's no ways. So freedom is coming.
When they say someone was walking in their gift, he was absolutely in his gift. To now see visions and see outside of what you can see in your physical reality and imagine a different world, that is on another level. I want us to touch on the man himself. You were able to interact with him. Beyond the creativity, beyond the brain, the genius, what kind of man was he? And I would love for you to reflect on that. Was he a man who enjoyed the laughter, shared a joke or two? Well, did he gossip about other people? I don't know. But I want us to touch on that. We're going to take a quick breather. It's 10 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African time, and then we get to understand a bit better of who the man was behind the genius, behind the creativity. What kind of man was he? We'll find that out right after this. We are still in conversation with Lindani Mbese, the man behind this documentary, Remembering Ngema.
Hello, Africa. We would love to hear your voice on our radio station. Be part of the fun and send a shout out or greeting message to your loved ones and your favorite Channel Africa presenters. Whether you're in Africa, the diaspora, or anywhere else around the globe, we want to hear your voice. Send your shout-out message by sending an email to info@channelafrica.co.za or send them to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Help us diversify our sound with your voice. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
No fairy tales, just the facts and the music you love on Channel Africa.
It's 10 minutes before 3 p.m. Central African time. We're still in conversation with the man behind this important documentary, Ngema Remembered. This is my story. Lindani Mbese. Lindani, the man, who was he? What kind of man was he? Did he enjoy a laugh or two? Was he a jokey kind of guy? Was he a serious? The personality.
Very jolly. Very excited all the time.
Yeah.
Ubuntu has so much of that. The fact that I mean, Bob Ngema was old enough to be my father. But, you know, the way he respected whatever I needed to do or you know, I think that becomes, I should have even started with that. You know, Ubuntu is all about, in fact, in the documentary, there's a part where Quincy Jones is actually speaking about Dr. Ngema.
Okay.
And he speaks about that. He says,
That's
you know,
beautiful.
Ubuntu that South Africans bring. Ushuti had seen it through Babungema. You know, he says Ubuntu, and he says that's actually my most favorite part about South Africa is that Ubuntu. So obviously, when he was abroad doing his things, he took that with him, and you know, people picked it up.
I love that.
Oh man, you know, look, you've gotten me very excited. We've spoken about Dr. Ngema's journey. We've spoken about the work, and you putting together this wonderful documentary, which really filters into the space of South African iconography. Let's talk about where we can see this. You shared just some wonderful details with us off air around the completion of this documentary. It was completed a good 2 years ago already. So it's ready, it's packaged. We want to dress up, we want to go out, and we want to take our children, most importantly, to go and see this wonderful African story. So let's talk about how we can consume this work now.
Yeah, so the wish, the dream, which we'd actually shared also with Dr. Ngema when we were doing the documentary, is you know, is his sacred home of arts is the Playhouse in Durban. So I would love a situation where it's premiered at the Playhouse in Durban. You know, bring the world of arts, the greats, all of them to Durban. You know, I mentioned I would love to have a Whoopi Goldberg be the guest of honor, you know, deliver maybe a Dr. Mbongeni Ngema lecture at one of the universities. You know, and we've got so many greats that are still around us. You know, you still have our John Carneys, we still have our Yvonne Chaka-Chachas, we still have, you know, there's so many of them. You know, I would love Abo Hot Sticks Mabuza, they're also, you know, part of the documentary. I would love to bring the whole world, you know, in front of him. And the only place I see that happening and fitting is the Playhouse. I think it takes about 1,600 people, have the whole Sarafina cast, whether theater or the movie, because you're aware that they travel, Sarafina travels abroad every year, so you know, they're changing casts so you can imagine how many actors have been through the, you know, recently. I mean, they just launched for 2025 at the Joburg Theatre. You know, I went to see that, all new faces. So every single time it's all new faces. But what I really respect with his work is it's remained the same. You know, this one I thought maybe someone would change something here and there. It still remains the same. The energy, you know, because I spoke to some of the actors that and actresses that worked with him. You know, they say, Wutsi, you know, the typical old school teaching way. You know, Nyashawa. You know, you know. Remember, we used to have like jam majorettes where you practice until
you get it right.
It's going to be 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That's your business, but you know. So you see that even in the cast that is now, you know, it's 2025, but you can see that whatever he put into the minds and the brains that are still working with his work, you know, that still comes across very strongly. I mean, it was amazing. Every time I watched it now, I think of some 2-3 weeks ago. It was like the first time you've seen it, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I hope it can come to life, this vision and this dream of yours, to have everyone be at the Playhouse to watch this documentary, because it's already gaining nominations, a whole nomination at the 2025 Simon Mabunu Sabela Awards. What does that recognition mean for you? Because I know you've put in so much of your heart, so much of your time into this, and then to get a nomination, that's quite a big deal.
I think it's a very big deal. It's been a very emotional, tough, challenging journey, because you know you can do the work, and then you now have to introduce it to the rest of the family. You don't know where that ends, and then you have to introduce it into the showbiz. You don't know what the interest there is and where that ends, and you know, then next thing you're all over the show. You know, you do something for a whole year trying to find your feet, and you realize after a year that I haven't even moved. In fact, if anything, I've gone 2 steps back. You know, so the work is done. You know, it's just now how smartly do we get it out there.
Yeah.
It would be sad for me for it to be recognized abroad before we've done it here. But sometimes you realize that some things are done because that just becomes the only way. Then while we are quiet and trying to put things together, someone from New York says, "Wow, we've got this. Bring it here. Let's start working." What do you say? What do you do then? So I really wish that we are able to watch it and celebrate it in South Africa before it can travel. But yeah, the award comes at such a great time. Last year he was actually honored at the awards, and for me it would just complete a great life that dedicated itself to the arts. If he could win, maybe this is me trying to.
He must win.
He must win. He must just win.
Oh man, Lindani, big love for this. I think this is just so much bigger than all of us, and I love that, you talk about how the story has remained the same even in its reimagination over the years. The story and its integrity remains intact, and you're contributing to that. You're contributing to keeping the integrity of the story, not just of Sarafina, but just of Mbongeni Ngema and his participation in his sacred home, as you call it, of the arts. I love that. And all the best. My wish is that, as we hold out for the next grand South African film, that we spread the good news of Sarafina as told by Dr. Mbongeni Ngema for the whole African continent. So beyond the Playhouse, listen, we do Dakar.
Yes.
We do.
There we go. You see, now you're thinking like
Abuja.
There we go.
We do Ouagadougou.
Yeah.
We just move
Yeah.
the story through
Yeah.
the African continent. So I'm very excited, and I cannot wait to see. We're going, ne? We're going to the Playhouse.
We have no choice.
Of course.
We have no
Of course. Of
Black
course.
tie and all.
Of course. Yeah. I think it just deserves. I see it in my head.
Yeah.
The lights, the
Yes.
red carpets.
Yes.
So I just hope it comes to life.
Lindani, thank you so much for your time this afternoon and for telling the story that if it wasn't for you, let's be honest, we would not have heard this.
Yep.
We would not have known what his thoughts were, what his sentiments, what was the story behind the Sarafina. We would not have known behind the songs, the legend himself. Thank you for sticking through to the entire journey. And I know you said that quite a bit of sacrifice was required for this, but you did a fantastic job. People are recognizing it, and we also can't wait as the Upside and Channel Africa to watch the full documentary and see the brilliance coming together. Thank you so much for your time.
I'll bring you the trophy.
Oh, come on! I love that. It's a minute before 3 p.m. Central African time. On the other side, Jwalani Tulongwepe is standing by with your latest news. So don't go anywhere. This is The Upside on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Stream us live on our social media platforms at Channel Africa on Facebook and YouTube. Jwalani, what's happening in the world of news?